What's going to happen? Let's get into it.
And straight up, there's that Azir ban. There's the Maokai. And they know, and they have to, because I do think that as good as LNG is, Scout to me is such a standout player, but LNG hasn't been able to consistently match the thing that the desk was talking about, the cohesion of JDG. We have cost so much Ruler over the years, and Ruler is a very simple guy. He wants everyone to play for him, and I think that if you have players with the caliber of specifically 369 and missing, it makes sense, right? And the way that they've been able to enable him has been such a difficult nut for every opposing team to crack. And there you see the Xayah ban as well. Even though I believe in the Ziggs as a counter,
Kai'Sa pretty big priority right now, as well as some of the top lane. We both have the K'Sante as well as Jax available. Orianna has been premier when the Azir is banned away. Ooh.
Have to see what Scout decides to go towards. Is Jace, of course, a big favorite of his, still up and available, means that Tarzan can pick up one of his more AP-focused junglers that he's so good at. But Alistar and Kai'Sa are both left available. Purple bottom lane could be coming through here if Gala and Hung would like to lock those away.
I mean, the Gala pickup was huge for them. It's in a Xayah Kai'Sa meta. Only one is available. I say grab that as quickly as you can, and they lock it in for him. Gonna set themselves up with that possibility, Atlas. Purple bottom lane, indeed. It's quite a powerful one here. Hong has been so good with the initiations for this team. Now for JDG, though, are they gonna try and lock in something for Ruler before it gets taken away? Or are they gonna drop AD carry all the way to 4-5?
And I'm actually wondering to see if they want to go for the J4 again. I don't think Kanavi individually looked that clean on it, but it is obviously really strong when combined with the Ori. Instead, though, it's going to be the Vi, also a very potent combo at locking down that Kai'Sa.
Exactly. Ultimate into ultimate, direct delivery for shockwaves here for Kanavi, for JDG. And what's it going to be? Are they going to drop Ruler's pick? They could go for support here, unless they really need to get the king. You mentioned Ruler wants them to play for him. They're going to get something here quick.
And it's looking like a Zeri angle potentially, leaving the support pick up in the air as well. Of course, Ruler, an absolutely exceptional Zeri player. We've seen Zeri on this patch has been less oppressive. It's been less of that pick Zeri, get very upset in Twitch chat situation.
There was a 5 base move speed nerf that's actually decently significant for the champion, but didn't drop it down too much. Still has that pentakill possibility here.
Did that just happen?
Okay, yes, so another one. Akali, baby. Chovy did it yesterday.
I don't know whether I really liked it when Chovy picked it yesterday. That gave me a few palpitations of the heart, but Scout is going to lock it in. It could be for Zika as well. We've seen a lot of top laners practicing the Akali on this patch, but I'm very interested to see how this one's going to go, because it was Akali into Orianna that Chovy played it yesterday.
So obviously Akali early on never really gets CS leads, is going to get pushed in. The Orianna should have priority, but Akali has a couple of advantages. It's very, very difficult to gank because of the Shroud, because of the mobility on the champion, as well as being able to scale into side lane advantage over Orianna. And we saw that last time around. Chovy being able to recover from the early CS deficit, being able to be a monster in those side lanes, assassinate, and make the Orianna very scared to go anywhere without the rest of the team. But I don't think JDG ever is going to go anywhere without the rest of the team. They're building for a 5-on-5 fight.
And already we're seeing 4 top laners being taken away here. No actual attention being paid.
K'Sante is the one.
That's you gotta go for it, right? You gotta imagine, especially with the Gwen ban. But I feel like JDG must have an answer as well, because the K'Sante on R4, I think here is the most obvious pick that you could go for.
So you're saying it's too obvious, it's a trap?
Well, it must be. You must have an answer. But LNG can also just not take the risk and instead have faith in Zika to go for a counter against what I assume will be K'Sante, pick up the Lee for Tarzan instead. And
it's the classic Akali Lee Sin combo. It used to be a lot more powerful before, stopping the Lee Sin from being on the opposite side of the Akali, but there's been a few reworks since then. The K'Sante that you were talking about being picked up here for 369, big burly top laner. Absolutely what we're expecting, especially with the fact that Ruler has the defense of the Orianna and he's on this scaling AD carry. This is looking like a very JDG draft at this point in time. And quite a few things to look out for. I like the Rel option, add a little bit more frontline for Ruler to play around.
The Renata hover was also very interesting because Renata has been so good with all of these teams that have hard initiation. Renata, really good counter engage ultimate, but as well the bailout has been massive so far. They're just going to go with the tried and true though, the Lulu with the Zeri.
And I think the benefit of Lulu, on level 1, you can actually be really oppressive with Zeri, particularly into Alistar, who is quite weak. The downside is this means for JDG, your only reliable engage is a Vi ultimate. If you would have picked Darrell, would have had a little bit more opportunity in the mid game to try and start up fights. Now, what is the counter going to be towards this Cassante?
Personally, I really like the Camille way more than the Fiora because it really allows LNG to play side lanes here. Since JDG is going to be playing straight up 5-on-5, they've got a Lulu comp, an Orianna comp. They have massive, massive advantage in supportive skills here with all of those extra shields. For the rest of the team, LNG basically have to play side lanes. They have to make space on the map for Akali to pick people off, and Camille Ultimate is a perfect tool to try and facilitate those picks.
Not only that, I think that with Kai'Sa especially, once you hit level 2 on the Killer Instinct, the ability to set up immediate picks inside lane, particularly with the Camille, or if Tarzan can get a kickoff on someone, it's so hard to deal with.
This is going to be a classic. JDG have constructed a fortress here, and will LNG be able to split them apart?
And these are my favorite kinds of drafts. Drafts when you've got both teams with very different win conditions, right? The 1-3-1, like you were talking about, something that is a lot more difficult to pull off these days against JDG doing their favorite thing, which is get 5 people together and find an opposing team to rumble.
I always feel like it is also a little bit of added extra difficulty for the team that is trying to play side lanes and play the map, that you do usually need to get an early advantage so that you can be the one opening up the space, because if the 5-on-5 team just gets the advantage and starts getting early neutral objectives, the game is set up right now that it's pretty easy to draw you to consecutive Dragons, consecutive Rift Heralds, over to Baron. So let's see if LNG can do it.
Yeah, if you're winning side lanes as the teamfight team, there's probably something going wrong for the 1-3-1 squad. But there are so many tools here, and it's Tarzan on his Lee Sin. He was incredible on this very, very recently. Just looked amazing. Let's jump onto Summoner's Rift here for our very first game of the day. A best of 3, remember, ladies and gentlemen. JDG up against LNG, rematch of the final. And remember, guys, you can connect your League of Legends account with Prime Gaming to grab the exclusive experimentation emote. And you can display your Heimerdinger love.
And as we take a look here, both AD carries actually starting with Cole. My expectation is that both junglers want to start on top side, because to me, this bot lane is the key to victory. If you're able to build up a Drake lead as JDG, as we already mentioned, it makes it so much harder for LNG, even if you get to the point where like Zika outskills, right, is able to win the 1v1, Scout can easily kill Knight, because if you're facing a Soul, what you gonna do? Yeah,
they might even go for a late invade here as Knight and 369 have come over. They just want to get the Raptor ward, but I would also like to point out it's an Ignite Cassante in topside for 369. He is not messing around. This is a champion that can go from tank to assassin pretty quickly with the press of one button, and now he's going to bring Ignite for those takedowns, try and take down Akali. It definitely does help trying to keep track of that champion as well. We'll see about the extra edge here versus Camille.
And it's really interesting because I think Cassante is actually a really good champion specifically for 369, because he's playing with Ruler, there's the misconception that he cannot play carry. He can. and Cassante is both a tank and a carry, and particularly with Ignite, if Zika missteps and 369 gets an early laning lead, it can take away so much of the power of LNG's comp.
I love you bringing it up because the origins of 369.
Yeah, right. This is what I was going to talk about as well.
They were as a carry top laner.
Exactly.
And it's simply because the demands of the way the game is designed now, and obviously having Knight and Ruler on his team, he's become this premier tank player. But sometimes people get carried away with the stories when you consistently play a similar style. They feel like you can only do that. Definitely not the case with him. Very versatile.
Yeah, a little bit different to Cuvée, who also had the Ruler treatment. However, he could only play tanks, as it turned out. Hey, I remember 369 in the bottom lane on Wukong, just decimating people. Speaking of which, we've got a little bit of a battle going on here towards this bottom side. LNG taking the wrong end of that stick. Ruler pushing things in with missing, and of course the range advantage going to allow them to do so.
Exactly. Every time you play against an Alistar as a double range, you had better be pushing. You're going to try and use your level 2. Sometimes they'll call junglers early, but it looks like they have not, and they're allowing Kanavi to just full clear on this Vi. I do like that. Vi is a fairly scaling jungler, really, really good for setting up plays later, allowing this team to scale, and Missing and Ruler already a turret plate taken for themselves, really trying to abuse it early on. We'll see if Hong pulls out some of his classic engages with this Alistar. Maybe once you get a reset from Tarzan after the first Scuttle Crab is taken.
Wow.
I expect the Scuttle Crabs to just be traded, but Scout is getting chunked pretty low early on, holding onto his potion.
Yeah, we saw this yesterday as well when Chovy played Faker. Like, the early laning phase is just incredibly rough as they go in.
Headbutt pulled towards that bottom side. Hung looking for the stun, does manage to get it onto Missing. He's down to 200 health, but Ruler is standing his ground and they can't push further forward. But getting that health trade, definitely good for LNG.
Yeah, it looks like Missing not too scared. No panic summoners blown by them, so they won't really feel the pain as far as the cooldowns are done. And they're going to get their reset off here. I think Ruler pretty happy with the opening stages. In the end, they also just trade those Scuttle Crabs for the junglers. Scout gets his reset off on the Akali. You were mentioning the game yesterday and that Akali, and one of the things is you don't want to fight around a level 4 Akali generally, and we did definitely see that, so LNG avoiding it. Scout gets back, no problem.
Yeah, I remember Peanut jumping into multiple people on his Kazakhs. What is really important here to me is to see how LNG is going to be able to actually absorb this pressure, because now you kind of get into the chain with Gala and Hung both backing, where Ruler and Missing are just going to keep the pressure on, are going to have favorable resets every single time. And again, I think one Drake is still okay, but if JDG gets up to 2 Drakes very early on due to this bot prio, LNG is going to be forced to respond. Now see that the Missing also keeping the pressure up. That's actually really big, able to cancel those backs.
Yeah, and now Gala and Hung underneath their turret going to have to pick up as much CS as they can get and find another opportunity to get that back off. Still, not a whole lot of pressure towards that bottom side. You're expecting that to be shoved in for JDG. It's whether these solo lanes can find advantages for LNG. It's a 1-3-1 composition. The bottom side of the map just needs to hold on so that you can find these opportunities for Zika and Scout to play the sides.
And those are going to come probably in the next minute or 2 here. Once you get the level 6 for Akali, that's when Scout can actually start looking for things. The problem is that Kanavi has been power farming here on the Vi, and he's trying to rush to his level 6 as quickly as possible as well to try and be able to answer that move in mid.
And Scout actually looking for a little bit of damage. 5-point strike going to connect on Tonight, who misses the dissonance against the invisible Akali. Of course, difficult one to hit.
Yeah, I love it. Going for the aggressive trade, trying to soften them up before pre-level 6. Also, Wow Hong is roaming here with Tarzan, trying to make use of their support jungle timer. Meanwhile, Kanavi finishes up those Krugs and heads on over to support them. Is it going to be a lane gank? I don't think they have a reason to go super aggressive. Hung is clearing out the ward, though, and they have Tarzan hanging in the river brush.
Yeah, and
Can they bait him in?
And Tarzan senses that something's up. Waiting in this brush here, we'll see where the Kanavi does show himself, and there he goes. Sweeper has been activated. Tarzan going to be spotted here by his former trainee. Both of them, of course, coming up through Griffin. Very fun story.
Yeah, I love the history here. You know, such respect as well between these two junglers. Tarzan definitely has been one of my favorite over the years just because of how creative he is, like weaving in redemption into his builds oftentimes, really playing for the team, trying to always set them up. But in this case, it is just going to be a draw on the bottom side, and we continue farming away with JDG coming out with a very nice lead with those turret plates, with the farm advantages for themselves early on. This bodes quite well for how secure their champion roster is right now. If they can get to those 5-on-5s, feels pretty good. Tarzan will take the opportunity, though, to grab themselves the first objective.
Yeah, that's really big. I think as LNG, the more leeway you can buy for yourself to be able to draw JDG towards the mid-late game across the map, the happier you are going to be. Kanavi has its 6 now, though, and I think Vi, one of the few junglers that can actually reliably lock down the Akali as long as Scout is a little bit further up the lane, doesn't get to jump back to his own turret.
And the other benefit of grabbing this Dragon for LNG, if they do disperse into side lanes later on, they don't have to worry too much about JDG trying to pull them into another 5-on-5. It basically buys you 5 minutes later into the game, and those are going to be a very precious 5 minutes to have.
Absolutely. Of course, tempo is so much more important if you are trying to play 1-3-1. It's why we don't see it all that often, because there are so many steps that you need to take for side lanes to be a win condition for a lot of these compositions. It's why we see mainly team fight coming in. So things already working against LNG after the draft, but we'll see whether they can execute, because if there is a 1-3-1 composition that can work, it is built like this.
All right, this is pretty big because Tarzan needs to finish his Raptors to get level 6. Looks like he didn't even get the level 6 off his Raptors, but Kanavi leashes the Rift Herald anyway. The small timing advantage is pushed out because Hong comes straight through mid lane. The cow rampages on through, kind of bluffs them off of it for a second, and that buys enough time for Tarzan to finish his red, get his level 6 on Lee Sin, see if they want to do anything about it. Both supports also leeching that experience in mid lane.
Yep, 4v4 potential here. Around this Rift Herald is already. Zika's diving in. There's the Hextech ultimatum. Q is going to connect as Kanavi taken down to half health. 369 in trouble. As the Camille is so low that his first blood going over to Knight to start this one up. Hung should be the next one on the menu, and there it is. But Ruler is down, missing. It's so incredibly low, and there's the perfect execution from Scout. He's trying to do what he can. He finds the backflip, but now he's the last man standing for LNG. Can he get Kanavi on the way out? And yes, he can. He's looking for even more, taking no. There it is. As finally Knight finishes it off 4-3. What the heck was that?
Wait, the eyeball died right before he got there.
Pick it up.
He was pixels away from picking up that eyeball. He did not get it.
And while all of that was happening, a solo kill happened in the bot lane as well. So across the entire map, pure carnage. Gala, known for his Kaisa, catches Ruler unaware. The late flash, the auto, and the perfect execution there. And then on the other end, here we see the team fighting power for JDG initially seems to be enough. And by the end, it's not.
The best part is the Red Rover, send one member over from 369. He actually uses Cassante ultimate to isolate one target away, and then Kanavi can Vi ultimate to the target to also be able to get to the rest of the team. That way, JDG kind of collapses into their own jungle and gets the early lead in the fight. Scout doing his best, though, to try and get something back. He dies. The eyeball just disappears in front of his fingers.
That is just heartbreaking.
That's
because
painful.
already he was the hero of that team fight for LNG, and then he almost manages to get all that potential money. Oh, just a whisker. Still denying it, I guess. There's some positives as well.
The main issue, I think, for LNG is that if all those kills go over, right, to Scout, it looks like a lot, but they're getting 1 kill on Tarzan, 1 kill on Scout. If he got fed, if he was able to accelerate the point of the game, although Gala might be in trouble here.
Yeah, Vaultbreaker going to be charged up as Gala is in trouble, and he's just dead. Ruler is going to get his revenge there towards that bottom side. Shockwave going to connect onto Scout in mid lane. He's not heading down towards that bottom lane this time around, and now Ruler, he can just wipe out these minions and look for more plates.
And now it feels like LNG is somewhat flustered, right? We have the dive set up, then the teleport, which gets cancelled, which means that Scout's going to have an even harder time because, as I was saying earlier, Knight was actually the big benefactor of that fight. He is so fed, already built up a Siastic, now also 2 kills to his name. It's going to be so much harder for LNG to keep him down.
Oh my, every time I watch JDG play, I'm just like, this is such a team game. So many advantages through the synergies, through the team play there. I mean, they have Gala trying to have the spotlight himself. He solo kills Ruler, and Ruler calls in the boys. That's not allowed. Time to tower dive. They got their revenge on the other side of the map, and now you see the gold lead here ballooning for JDG despite the early dragon take from LNG. Now this team that is about a 5-on-5, about a team fight, should be able to get right back on course with those objectives. Currently, though, Kanavi with his ultimate ready is on top side, trying to clear out the extra vision for 369.
And Zika just going to see what he can do to try and keep himself alive. Right now, Kanavi considering, and there it is. Vaultbreaker going to get charged up, but Zika taking matters into his own hands. Hextech ultimatum comes down as now Scout trying to keep himself alive. Perfect execution, but he's not going to be able to get back into this battle as 369 down very, very low himself. And Knight has control of the minion wave. Q looking for the targets there from Tarzan, but not going to quite get it. And Zika will at least get some experience here. JDG in control.
Pretty good attempt there from JDG. You know, good juggling of tower aggro afterwards, but I like Zika, you know, taking the initiative there. He knows Camille E, the stun is going to take priority, so he goes right at Kanavi, and that forces the early ult from Kanavi. So no kill had on the top side. LNG now should be able to secure that bottom side scuttle crab to guarantee their vision over Dragon number 2, which JDG might have some eyeballs for.
It is still, though, a lot of gold going in the pockets of JDG, right? They get the crash. Zika has to wait before he can actually pick up the wave, and our plate going over tonight. It's the Dragon, second Dragon being set up here for LNG. They need this to keep themselves in this game.
And since Kanavi uses ult on the top side dive, they know Vi without ultimate here, not going to be a huge presence. So Tarzan feels very comfortable finishing it up and grabbing themselves number 2.
Also want to highlight the itemization choice here for Knight. Going for that crown, I think, is such a big boon. It is really hard for LNG to consistently proc that. We're no longer in the AP Kai'Sa meta, which I'm very happy about. That wasn't very fun. Yeah, I did not enjoy that build. But it also gives him so much extra safety and time to stall inside lane to avoid the scenario we saw yesterday.
Yeah, you're looking across the line and you see Camille ultimate, Akali. Okay, we see
Speaking
bottom.
across the line, Ruler is going to have the Sonic Wave soaked by his support. He's now ulted, trying to get himself out of here. Down to 200, and he's executed by Gala. That is going to be the kill. LNG, they earned that one.
Yeah, that plasma definitely leaves a sting. Gala gets another one for himself. And that means LNG can push on bottom side too. The turret plates just fall off though. We just hit 14 minutes. Gala can't farm extra money off that.
Additionally, with the Camtech Dragon coming in, as LNG, I think you take that as a win. Even if you do end up giving up a substantial amount of Drakes, if it ended up being like an Inferno, I think the individual Drakes have so much power, but across the board, you're a 1-3-1 comp, and as we see here in the MasterCard lane economy snapshot, every member on the enemy team is ahead.
They forgot to put LNG's ones.
Well, they forgot to put the Dragon lane. Where's the Dragons?
It's the one thing they got.
All right, look at this play
They
though.
also got this.
Tarzan goes in with the ward hop, with the flash. They get him against the wall, and then Plasma is stacked up, so it's only one more auto, and Ruler stays there. He goes for the auto. Gala knows he's going to be able to get it with that one. They take him down.
Shockwave here towards the top side. Scout trying to stay in the shroud. Ults to try and get himself out of there, but there is the cease and desist. And Scout, oh, the clockwork wind up, not enough, but once again, it is going to be command attack coming in. Now it's Knight's turn to fall as Tarzan picks up the kill. Another Q going to connect. As Kanavi should be able to get himself out or back in if that's where he'd like to go. Hung has turned up as well, but 369 is here. Headbutt for the disengage.
Yeah, biggest thing is Gala stayed mid there, so they know that LNG are not going to continue on this fight, and he's getting a lot of damage done on this mid tower. Let's see if JDG can just rotate down, pull out this Rift Herald, and go for it.
And Gala could be in a little bit of trouble here. First Q going to connect there from 369 as he misses the flash over the wall. Still, Gala going to be all right. Teleport coming in to support. LNG 4-man strong here in the mid lane.
I think he went for the evolve. I think that's why he had to blow his flash. If he just walks out of the lane,
it's
he's
an
fine.
ambition move. Sorry, that is a very, that's like 2013, I'm sorry.
I know what you're talking about.
He's not Kha'Zix. Oh, Hung!
Okay, Shuriken backflip, not going to quite connect onto 369. I thought that was going to. Might have grazed a buttock there on its way through, but doesn't actually land.
Rift Herald, though, has been pulled out of the pit. They're messing around. Let's see if they take the fight. Looks like they've got the reset coming from base here. Lulu's on the way.
369 waiting in the brush, but is spotted on that control ward. Gala keeping his distance as Hung being the bodyguard as the cow. They should be able to take this one, and the eye is collected this time around. JDG not quite grouped up in time. Objective going over to LNG. So, 3 of them, I guess 4 of them so far this game, although the eye wasn't collected for the first
There's a flank. There's a flank.
Mega cone!
Okay,
Scout is going deep.
See whether he can actually catch up to them. Q did connect onto 369, but it's going to dissipate. No resonating strike this time, and he's still waiting. They're still trying to find that opportune moment. No. Doesn't happen.
Too dangerous, too dangerous. JDG not going to split apart. They don't leave the opening. Even though Knight doesn't have summoner spells, he does, as you say, have that Crown of the Shattered Queen. So let's take another look at it. And Scout, because he's able to dodge here, he walked back. The sweeper's a little delayed on the reveal, so he was able to walk back and draw them deep enough under tower that it allows Tarzan the counterplay here to even it up and grab mid laner for mid laner. And then, as we already pointed out, Gala stayed mid, so they didn't want any more.
Also a big shutdown, actually a really big influx of gold. Because Knight already picked up multiple kills, sitting on a pretty big bounty, so Tarzan going to be relevant for a little bit longer. We all know Lee, once we get to the later stage of the game, basically is reduced to a kick bot. but with the amount of damage that I think the rest of LNG is able to provide, if Tarzan is able to stay ahead or even in items, makes a really big difference.
I'd love to have that bot on my team any day of the week in solo queue, the Tarzan bot. If it can play as well as him, deal.
I don't think the AI's quite got to that level just yet, Kobe, but we'll just have to wait. Maybe it will get accelerated. Yeah, Tarzan, like, you talk about the kickbot situation. Tarzan does things on Lee Sin that are pretty extraordinary. So I have a feeling that he should be able to stand the test of time.
Oh, he's a don't get me wrong.
It's a pretty good one.
It's not a Tarzan problem. It's a Lee problem.
We'll see what he can do, even if the champion is going to fall off. Because I think that having the pick potential and the fact that Lee Sin is so good in skirmishes, if you're playing for side lanes, if you're playing for skirmishes rather than team fights, I think the relevance will be held onto for a little bit longer.
This is going to be a critical dragon spawn here. So LNG, in order to get priority, they're going to drop the Rift Herald mid. It does pull out the teleport from 369. They don't want to give up position. Vision here through the river as Dragon is already up will be paramount. They take down that Rift Herald. It doesn't get any sort of charge off, and they push it right back. They're going to get the turret before.
Yeah, Extender Beam going to come through there, and it's as if it was JDG that dropped the Herald because they got full control of that mid lane. See LNG going to move Zeka towards this bottom side of the map to look to crack open that outer turret. Close to 2,000 gold, a little bit more going to be the lead here for JDG. So far, the early game going well for them, but this should even things out. Just one kept tech Drake is basically what LNG have bought. With the fact that they've collected the 2 early Drakes, they can afford to give these up. But now Hung in a little bit of trouble potentially. Kanavi can close the distance quite easily. Q not going to connect there from 369. The Alistair isn't out of the woods just yet. Kanavi going to get headbutted back, but Zika's not going to be able to protect the cow. Going to have to flash to get himself out of the way, and now the Drake is going to be taken. Tarzan! It's highway robbery here from LNG.
It's merely a distraction, cow, Atlas. Look down to the bottom lane. Hung deceives them all while the rest of the team picks up Dragon number 3.
They don't even get the cow. The cow just walks off. They get cow
They
and
got his
Dragon.
flash, you know? There you go.
I don't think that's worth it. He's hex flashing. It's a magical cow.
It's actually even better for the cow.
I'm voting for Hung for Oscar. Really nicely played there by LNG.
So he's going up against Lahens.
Yeah,
we got to keep a running track of that category because that was really well done. You see there as well. I think the one thing that JDG might run into trouble with that we pointed out in draft as well is against a 1-3-1 comp in particular. I think often you want to try and hard collapse. But the hard engage on JDG is fairly lacking. 369, the Ignite helps in the 1v1, but it does take away from the Q-free flash that we've seen be a really good tool to start fights. So it really is only Kanavi that can go for the snap engages, and I think LNG playing very well around that.
Some big damage numbers there coming from the JDG solo laner so far. But the pressure is now going to be turned on them as far as the Dragons. With LNG being able to sneak that last one, completely changes how the setup does go. And side lane towers are going to start to fall, so finally we'll start to see what we were talking about in Champ Select, if LNG can make some of these picks with the Camille ultimate, locking somebody in, Gala Killer Instinct to follow through a long distance.
Or do you just let them have Chemtech Soul and team fight for Elder?
Not gonna lie,
I'm not kidding.
I think that
I'm not kidding, Kobe.
LNG have now bought themselves 20 minutes. I don't think they ever go back to the Dragon Pit until it's a really big dragon.
It's a trap.
100%. Because if you're flipping for Elder, the team fight team's going to be feeling pretty good about it. LNG now considering the Baron, of course, something that you will need to pay attention to if they can catch JDG insides, trying to keep these waves in order. That's their opportunity.
Well, the best part, fellas, is that you don't have to give those dragons away for free either if you're LNG. Baron is on the map, and it's a viable target. You've got plenty of DPS. Gala's on 2 items here on the Kai'Sa, so you can constantly threaten JDG. When they go down, they think they're going to get their free, dragon in exchange. You take from them side lane pressure. You take from them possibilities of going towards Baron, and you really start to pull this team apart.
There's also still a ton of gold standing on the top half of the map, right? There are still the 2 turrets. So the moment that JDG slightly overextends into making sure that they start stacking those dragons, that they get the objective, could provide an opportunity, particularly for the Camille, to mow down these objectives and really accelerate to the point where eventually Zik is going to be able to just blow up anyone that tries to face him.
Really, we're going to be looking at, how well LNG can use their mobility, because JDG relies so much on Kanavi's engage. If he's not able to get a good Vi ultimate into Shockwave, then LNG have so many options as far as pushing out elsewhere.
Yeah, and everything comes down to that as well, because you want to layer things like wild growth and stuff like that. All of the CC that's there is sort of conditional, right? Like, of course, you can move the orb, but if you've got the Vi with that ball delivery system, can certainly make things a little bit better. And I did kind of tell a lie, because there is no way Ruler would let that wild growth be used on anyone other than him, but you know what I'm talking about. Hung now just positioning himself, trying to get some vision here around the Baron. That is going to be something that LNG really need to pay attention to.
So they've got the key binding in game for target champions only, but Missing added a special one that's target ruler only.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
No, they've taken out target champions only. Like, it's just target ruler only for Missing. Like, that's the only one he's allowed.
Yeah.
You can't even consider the other one.
We have the one caveat, which is his ruler. If not, it's not within 2 turrets distance, right? Like, if it's the other end of the map. But maybe. It's I don't know. Not knowing ruler and the way that he demands attention and his kills. Wouldn't be surprised if even then he would raise a little bit of ruckus. We'll see, though. I think it's going to be really telling how JDG and LNG are going to respond to this Drake that's spawning in about a minute, right? Are we actually going to see LNG try and team fight to get themselves that, or are they going to try and get objectives on the other end of the map? Right now, Zika is in top, unmatched, trying to push down those turrets.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard for JDG because they have to keep track of vision around Baron at the very least. LNG, at least at the minimum, would get, like, topside turret. If they overcommit for it, and JDG getting that vision we're talking about right now.
Speaking of which,
Ward not actually being spotted.
So full vision for LNG, for what feels like for free. JDG not going to be sweeping in there, probably assuming that that control ward does manage to mow down the whole of the pit. And now Knight's starting it up, and it is on full vision for LNG. Let's see how they respond. As you can see, Tarzan in the back of the pit. No one knows that the Lee Sin is there with full information as to what's going on. Now they do, as the Sonic Wave does fly in, but Zika is on the flank angle, and these pincer movements can work out when you have a Camille on your team. The Orb is now trying to keep them in check, but Kanavi locks down the Baron. Now Tarzan dives in, he breaks his stopwatch, but Ruler has been kicked out immediately. He pops back over, and the team fight team is popping off. Ruler unchecked in the pit, and he's just going to grab as many kills as he would like. It's 2 for now, but Gala is running for the hills.
Oh, JDG dare LNG to enter the arena. Please jump in. Kanavi has the confidence. Oh, they're going for Gala. They can.
The Mega Cone is going to disengage Gala for now. Does he have the supercharge? I believe he does. He's going to be able to get himself out of there. Kanavi now going to deny the first Chemtech Drake for JDG. And Ruler going to take down an inner turret.
You got to have some big confidence to be able to smite fight against the Lee Sin, and Kanavi does. He hits it, and then the shockwave is so big.
To be honest, though, I don't even know if JDG, if they lose this Baron, I think they're still happy. They just want to fight. You see as well, Nitro, so much attention, stopwatch keeps him alive, and even with Ruler not in the fight, the work being done by 369 is that double knockback. And Gala, he just doesn't get to walk up because everything is happening in the pit. If he moves forward, he gets blown up in an instant.
And it's always, it's so unfortunate as well, because the kick is used onto Ruler, who just effortlessly skates over the wall, and he's back in the fight, right? Like, it's not going to perform that disengage that you want to break up this fight so that it works for LNG. And JDG, this is how they win this game. They mind control LNG into 5v5s.
Wow. Wow. I love it, too, because LNG had almost painted JDG into a corner with the dragon stacking. But JDG knew our vision around Baron would be too hard to defend while going for dragon, so we are just going to start up the Baron ourselves, force the issue, and they come out rolling at the very top here. Now it's just going to be straight on through, murder these towers.
And it's dominoes, isn't it? Basically, like, after that team fight is won, now JDG, they have the Baron, they have that extra push power. There is no way that side lanes can be a win condition here, and it does put once again into perspective the danger of trying to play a composition like this for LNG. But JDG, they just picked their team fight comp. Now they are knocking on the door of LNG and looking to move up to 1-0 in this best of 3.
It's just the power. If you don't have engage, who cares? Force the enemy to go into you. Zika's trying to keep the wave away, or trying to keep the pressure up, but his base is going to smithereens.
Yep, in a turret for Nexus may not be the trade they're looking for, but there's a cease and desist, and Tarzan will acquiesce that one. LNG now trying to defend, but without their jungler, and now 369 is unstoppable. The Hextech ultimatum is one that they don't care about at all. As 369, he's going down low. Scout's trying to get what he can. Voidseek is going to work out. There is still an inhibitor turret turret there in the mid lane, but it's not quite going to be enough. And now the Nexus is exposed. Gala is looking for Ruler. Ruler wants a rematch of the 1v1 from earlier, and Gala's making it work. Ruler goes golden and says, all right, Knight, you can take that one. And JDG will take down the Nexus here in game number 1.
It's a team game, Atlas, and the 5-on-5 still win. Despite the early Dragons for LNG, they don't get enough of the split done. They don't get enough of the picking off done. They go in, they take the dare for the Baron steal. They lose the fight and lose the game.
And there you see as well, I think that one of the things outside of the team